welcome back. Glad to have you here. My name is Anya Light. My spirit guides have been nudging me to make this video for a couple years, and it was brewing, and I patiently was waiting for the right day, the right moment, and it has come. It has arrived, so here we are. If you clicked on this video, maybe you love caffeine. Maybe you are struggling with it. Maybe you've already kicked it to the curb and you want some extra inspiration or reassurance, or maybe something else, but caffeine is on your mind. All right, so here is the message that my guides have been sharing with me for many, many years. This information comes not only from my spirit guide team, the Avatarian Collective, but also from just like practical, personal experience. So it's a combo of channeled messages and just like my own life and what I've been experiencing. So let's take a breath together. Okay, so caffeine. Caffeine is a beautiful medicine. It's a sacred plant medicine. It is perfect for particular moments in our lives. And so some of those moments could be, let's say that you don't get a very good night of sleep for whatever reason. Maybe you just are struggling with insomnia, or you have nightmares, or whatever's going on with you. You just didn't get a good night of sleep. And let's say the next day, you got to take a road trip. You got to drive from Minneapolis to Timbuktu. Okay, so that wouldn't be safe. And even maybe the road trip is like, I just got to get to work. So I got to get to my home to work, and I got to drive my car. Okay. Not so safe to drive when one is very, very tired. So caffeine is this blessed medicine that we can use when we need to drive and stay alert, stay awake for something that involves our physical safety. Like we don't want to get in a car accident. We don't want to fall asleep at the wheel. And even when we're tired, we can start to hallucinate a little bit, when you like see things out of the corner of your eyes, maybe your reaction time's a bit off, your depth perception isn't quite right. So caffeine, beautiful medicine for driving purposes, for safety purposes in that regard. Yeah. What else is caffeine good for? Caffeine is good for once in those rare occasions when we are wanting to connect in sacred ceremony. So something that we could do, that we could choose to feel called to do, is perhaps partake of a once in a while, a sacred cacao ceremony. Cacao is loaded with caffeine, and that's part of how it works on us. Cacao is one of those things that people don't often think of as having caffeine. Now, cacao is the originator of chocolate. Chocolate is made through processing cacao in a certain way. So both chocolate, cacao have lots of caffeine in them. I mean, not as much as like coffee, but it still has a good deal of caffeine in it. And sometimes we may feel called to do sacred ceremonies, perhaps with a guide, a shamanic guide, some kind of spiritual healer. And that's blessed. That's beautiful, because sometimes when we're working through trauma, sometimes when we're working through depression, we need to be able to taste states of higher consciousness and to know what's possible. Like just to give us that glimpse, just to give us that taste, so that we can know what we're actually shooting for, right? Because sometimes we read these sacred books, for example, and it might seem, out of our reach. Like we can sit down, for example, read the book, The Power of Now by Eckhart Tolle, famous book, right? Or Be Here Now by Ram Dass. And we can read what they're saying. Like they can say to us in these books, peace is available to you now. You have it all within you. You can rise to a supremely joyful, peaceful state in your life. But you don't really have an experience of that yet. Or we may watch a YouTube video where a spiritual teacher says, yes, it is possible to, have an astral projection experience and rise up out of our bodies and go up to the heavenly realms and fly with angels. And we might be sitting there like, really? I don't know. I don't know about that. Of course, we're skeptical in the beginning of our spiritual journey because it's all so new and we don't want to be taken advantage of. So we're very skeptical, and that's okay. In that skeptical phase, plant medicine is extremely helpful. I know that it was for me. It was an indispensable part of the journey. And actually, I will link in the description below to another one of my videos where I talk about my experiences with psychedelics and some of the pros and cons of that. But wow, so plant medicine is extremely helpful in those beginning stages of kind of opening up our possibility of like feeling in our bodies what is coming for us. Now, the downside of plant medicines, of course, is that they do have side effects, right? Like any medicine that you take has a side effect, okay? Because when something isn't attained naturally, and when I say naturally, I mean through anything other than basic food, water, and meditation work, and energy work, those basic things. Anything beyond that, I'll add exercise too. So those are the basic categories of like self-care / spiritual practices that we can do to raise our vibration. But really anything outside of those categories that involves ingesting something like a plant medicine, smoking cannabis, whatever it is, MDMA, whatever it may be, mushrooms, those things have side effects. They have a downside to them, right? And that is how nature designed our awakening process. What caffeine does is it pokes holes in our aura. Now, most plant medicines do that. So the drug, the medicine, it pokes holes in this aura. The aura is the protective shield that surrounds your body. Everyone has it. If you are alive, you have an aura. Even cats and dogs and all animals and plants and every living thing has an aura. It's invisible. Some people can see these, not everybody, but mostly invisible to most people. Invisible energy around you. And so when you partake of caffeine in particular, it pokes holes in your aura. What does that do? That allows other dimensions, other realities to come flooding in to your reality. And so then your brain changes its normal state. So we perceive when we are partaking of the medicine of caffeine, we're entering realms of greater additional vigor and energy. This universe is made up of many, many different realms that we cannot always perceive with the naked eye. Many intuitives and mystics have the ability to see these other realms. The farther you progress on your meditation, your spiritual journey, the more you have access to perceiving these realms, but there's many different realms. And if you've partaken of like a ayahuasca ceremony or some kind of plant medicine ceremony, you absolutely know there's other realms. So caffeine pokes these holes, and it's interesting because it allows other realms of great vitality, passion, and energy to flood through, right? Have you ever noticed when you have caffeine, you suddenly have like the greatest ideas? It's like your brain goes from like processing the universe at like a level 10 to like a level 100, like in an instant. Like you take a sip and you're like, I have all these ideas. You become very creative. It's like a flood of ideas come in. Caffeine tunes us to these realms of reality where there's a lot of passion. And they say, for example, caffeine, cacao is an aphrodisiac. Oh yeah, it connects us to these realms where there's a lot of passion, and that includes sexual passion and romantic passion for sure. So, there goes my hat. That's cool. So caffeine puts us in touch with these different realities, and they can be really pleasurable, really beautiful, right? And then comes the downside. then comes the crash. Now, those of you who are sensitive to energy will feel this more intensely. In fact, the more that you meditate, the more you will feel this. So as you progress in your spiritual journey, the less you will be drawn to partaking of caffeine, and it will start to actually seem really gross to you over time, because you will be able to perceive on a more minute level what's going on in your energetic field than most other people can perceive. So that's the good news. If you feel addicted to caffeine right now, you won't always be that way. You won't always feel that way, because you'll just start to lose interest in it naturally, because you'll perceive the negative side effects as outweighing the benefits. But what are these negative side effects? Well, it makes us overly sensitive to all energies. So with these holes, the aura has a very specific purpose. It keeps us safe. It's kind of like a little protective bubble around us. An analogy would be like when you go camping and you put up a tent, right? It's much more comfortable to sleep in a tent, protected from the elements, protected from the bugs and the wind and the rain, rather than just like taking a sleeping bag and like rolling it out in the ground and sleeping. I mean, we could do that, but it's just not as comfortable. So when the aura is nice and intact, we feel much more stable. We feel much more happy, plain and simple. But when the aura has these holes, as your body processes the caffeine and detoxes from it and moves it through your system, moves it through your liver, detoxes it, and slowly kind of takes it out, because it is a poison. I'll make a side note here and let you know that caffeine it is created by plants, certain kinds of plants, as a natural defense mechanism against bugs. It's a natural pesticide. So it is toxic. So your body wants to get rid of it as soon as possible. So as your body is processing it out, that's when the come down, the energetic come down happens. You lose your access to the other fun realms, the passion realms, the energy realms, the idea realms, the creativity realms. What happens is, though, you lose your access to those realms, but you still have these holes, and they're temporary. They do go away. The stuff that maybe went under the radar of your detection now is not under the radar. So, for example, let's say that you, on a normal day without caffeine, could go into a grocery store and not feel overwhelmed by energy. You're just like, oh, I like going to the grocery store. It's nice. Okay. But if you're coming down after caffeine, you might suddenly feel very irritated. Like you will suddenly be picking up on the bad moods of everyone around you, because you got these holes. You're no longer protected in your nice, like solid aura. You got these dang holes. So you've got these, we'll call them negative energies. We'll call them negative spirits, negative entities even, that are just like bombarding you. Okay. So that's what's happening. So your mood drops and you just become more timid, more fearful, even paranoid sometimes. When I come down from a big caffeine dose, I notice I get paranoid. I start to think just paranoid thoughts. And that's because my aura is being affected, because I can feel the darkness. That's the payback. So basically how it works with any kind of greatly stimulating, mind-altering medicine, 99% of the time, I'll say this, 99% of the time what I'm saying is true. There are a couple rare instances where this does not apply, but that's more for the advanced practitioners. So I'm talking to most people out there. This will apply to you, I'm quite sure. Except for maybe the 1% of you out there who it won't. But I don't think you'd be watching my videos if you were that 1%. So, okay, so let's say your normal baseline mood is here on a day-to-day basis, and then you partake of some sort of drug. Maybe it's caffeine, maybe it's cannabis, whatever it is. And then temporarily your mood goes up. You're like, great. So you went from here to here. That feels good in the moment, doesn't it? But then when you withdraw, when that drug starts to detox out of your system, you drop under the baseline and you go down the same amount that you went up. So whatever amount you go up, you come down in equal measure. So let's say you come way up. Well, when you detox and come down, you go way to this equal amount down that you went up. So is that worth it? Of course not. It is not worth it. If you are wanting to lead a happy, peaceful life without a lot of like big ups and downs, a life of stability, of purpose, then you don't really have room for these ups and downs. So, as I said in the beginning of the video, caffeine is a wonderful plant medicine for certain occasions. And I still partake of it every now and then when I have a bad night of sleep and I have to drive somewhere and I want to stay safe. But I also know when I partake of it, I'm about to enter the hell realms for a couple days. For most people, it takes 2 to 5 days to get rid of the most of the effects. So if I partake of caffeine on a Monday, I know that at the very bare minimum, my Tuesday and Wednesday is going to be pretty screwed up. I'm not going to have my normal motivation. I'm going to feel kind of sad, kind of timid, kind of glum, kind of shy. I don't normally feel shy, but caffeine makes me feel shy because I want to withdraw from the world because it feels painful. It's like I feel all the darkness and suffering and sadness of the world magnified, and it's just overwhelming because I got these holes. So yes, that is what's up with caffeine. Experiment, play with it. Talk to the spirit of caffeine. This is how I learned all this stuff about plant medicines and spirit guides. You just talk to them. You just say, hey, caffeine, reveal to me what you're about. And caffeine as an entity will tell you. Everything is an entity. Everything is an energy. And we have the ability to communicate with everything. If you're feeling like you want to release caffeine from your life, or at the very bare minimum, only partake of it in very rare occasions, such as driving or other situations where you have to be very mentally alert, please come to me. I do one-on-one coaching sessions. This is something that I struggled with for years. I can't wait to share with you and inspire you to also release that nasty habit. You're gonna feel so much better in your life without having caffeine on a daily basis. You're gonna feel just so much more energized, so much better, and it's just really interesting that our society promotes caffeine as giving energy when in actuality caffeine takes energy away from us. In the long run, it depletes us. So when you're ready to release that, I'll be here for you. I love you all, friends. Thanks for tuning in. I'll see you very soon next week in the next video. Bye for now.